She waited until the waiter brought dessert. He hadn't even set down the plates before she inhaled, looked at me, and said it, like she'd rehearsed it during the appetizer. "I'm leaving you." Not a tear, not a flicker of doubt in her voice. Just 3 clean words and a slice of tiramisu between us. The couple at the table next to us paused mid-chew. I heard someone's fork clink against porcelain. And me? I just stared at her, blinking so much I probably looked like a malfunctioning doll. She didn't stop. "I've already signed the lease. Movers come Monday. I'm done pretending. This marriage has been over for a while. You're just the last one to notice." She smiled, and for a second, I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, God, no, but because I had been up for 2 nights straight knowing this was coming. Every time she turned her phone upside down. Every time she got dressed to grab groceries in heels. Every time she talked in vague little half-sentences like I wasn't smart enough to follow the crumbs. But here's the part that she didn't plan for. Because while she was choosing that fancy little restaurant and that overpriced bottle of wine to deliver her dramatic line like a final scene in some made-for-streaming breakup movie, I had chosen something else. I chose that exact moment, right when she was gearing up to sip her wine and watch me crumble like a wet napkin, to raise my hand and wave someone over. She saw me wave, and her face twitched. Then the front door opened, and he stepped inside, and her fork fell out of her hand. It bounced against the tablecloth once, and she didn't even notice, because suddenly she looked like she was choking on her own heartbeat. And me? I just leaned back in my chair, wiped my mouth with my napkin, and smiled. "Thought you might want dessert after all," I said. The man who walked in wasn't some random person. No, that would have been too simple. He wasn't a friend, not an ex, not even some private investigator, though I'd thought about that route before. No, he was someone she swore didn't exist. Literally. I remember it like it was yesterday, that cold morning in September when I picked up her phone by accident instead of mine. Identical cases. She was in the shower, and a message popped up from someone labeled delivery team. That alone should have set off sirens. We hadn't ordered anything. The message? Last night was worth every lie. Same time Friday. I nearly dropped the phone. When I confronted her, she acted offended. Called it spam. Told me I was being paranoid, that I always looked for drama because my life was too quiet. But I didn't let it go this time. I started tracking little things. Not her. I wasn't installing cameras or anything. I'm not that guy. But I began noting patterns. Receipts. Hours. Calls. Sudden gym memberships. Forgotten earrings that weren't hers in the laundry. And eventually, a name surfaced. Sean. Supposedly some old friend from before we were married. Someone she barely remembered. Someone she didn't even have on social media anymore. When I brought him up, she looked me dead in the eye and said, "I don't even know anyone named Sean anymore. You're inventing ghosts, Owen." So yeah, you can imagine the satisfaction of watching her ghost walk through the restaurant doors in khakis and a navy peacoat, scanning the room until I raised my hand ever so slightly. He looked surprised, uncomfortable, like he'd expected to see her somewhere else that night, anywhere else. But I'd gotten to him first. How? Well, I'll get to that. Let's just say people in construction don't keep secrets very well when you start asking questions and throw in a six-pack. Anyway, the second Dana saw him, really saw him, her entire act fell apart. She froze, then blinked rapidly like maybe she could wish him away. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. Then she turned to me, all fake confusion. "What is this?" "Oh, honey, this," I said, gesturing between her and her very real, very tangible lie. "This is dessert." He stopped a few feet from our table, hands in his pockets, shifting on his feet like a kid called to the principal's office. Her voice finally returned, sharp and low. "You're out of your mind. This is harassment. He doesn't even know you." Sean coughed awkwardly. "Actually, I do." She went pale, and I leaned forward, elbows on the table, my heart hammering in my chest, but my words calm. "So, you were saying something about leaving me?" Her face was pure panic. For once, she didn't have a plan, and I wasn't done yet. She looked like she'd been dropped into cold water. You know that moment when someone's trying to calculate how much you know versus how much they can still spin? That's where she was. Her eyes were darting between me and him, like she was hoping one of us would say this was all a prank. Or better yet, a misunderstanding. But I didn't blink. And Sean, he didn't sit down, just hovered there awkwardly, avoiding eye contact with her like a man who just realized he wasn't the only one being lied to. Or maybe he finally figured out what she really was. She tried to recover, tugging her napkin into her lap like we were still just two married people having a civil dinner. Her voice came out tight. So, what exactly are you trying to do here, Owen? Make a scene? I almost laughed. That's what she always accused me of, being too emotional. Like my reactions were the problem, not her behavior. No, I said slowly. I'm just giving you a moment. A rare opportunity, really, to say something honest for once. She scoffed, but even that sounded shaky. Oh, come on, she said, gesturing toward Sean, who still hadn't moved from his awkward stance. This is ridiculous. You bring someone I barely know here and expect what? A confession? Barely know. I repeated. That's interesting. Because he sent you a bouquet 2 weeks ago with a card that read, I miss your mouth, not your excuses. Her hand flinched, knocking over her wine glass. The red spilled fast, like it was trying to escape. She grabbed a napkin, pressing it to the table like she could soak the whole mess back into silence. Sean finally spoke. Quiet, but clear. I didn't know you were still married. There it was. Not just for me to hear, but for her, too. Something shifted in her expression. Not guilt. No, I knew her too well. It was calculation again. A cold reset. She stood up, slowly, and looked directly at me. You've made your little point, Owen. Congratulations. You embarrassed me in public. Is that what you wanted? I stared at her for a long second. No, I said. That's just a bonus. That hit her. I saw it. She blinked fast and opened her mouth, probably to deliver one of her trademark cruel lines, the kind that made me feel like the floor was always moving under my feet. But before she could speak, I reached into my jacket pocket and slid something across the table toward her. A single envelope. No name. She stared at it like it might explode. Then she looked back at me, eyes narrower now. What is this? I leaned back in my chair, suddenly calm. Open it at home. Or wherever it is you're living now. She didn't touch it. I could feel Sean watching her. Watching us. Probably realizing for the first time that he wasn't the center of some tragic love story. He was just a footnote in a mess he barely understood. And as she stood there, frozen, I realized something else. I didn't need to yell. I didn't need revenge and flames. She was already burning. She didn't touch the envelope. She just stood there, lips parted like she wanted to argue but couldn't decide what angle was safest. That envelope changed everything. Because deep down, she knew I wasn't bluffing. I never had that kind of confidence before, not in this marriage. Not with her. But now I had control. Take it, I said quietly, not raising my voice. You'll want to read it before you go back to pretending you're the victim. Sean finally stepped away from our table. He didn't say goodbye to either of us. He just muttered something under his breath. I think it was, I'm sorry, and headed out the door like the weight of her lies had finally dropped onto his shoulders. He had no idea he wasn't the only one she'd been whispering sweet nothings to. He just happened to be the one I could find first. She didn't follow him. She just sat back down, slowly, eyes locked on that envelope like it was ticking. You went through my phone? She said, her voice lower now, venomous. Not shocked. No, that would have required innocence. Just angry I'd turned the tables. That's pathetic. No, I replied. I went through the trash. And it was true. That's how I found the receipts. Hotel bookings under different names, car service invoices, even a printed itinerary for a spa weekend that turned out to be 2 nights in a cabin with someone named Tristan. I had been sitting on that mountain of truth for weeks, letting it gnaw at me while she played the part of the tired, misunderstood wife. But it wasn't just the trash. I'd found more. And it was all in that envelope. Screenshots, messages, booking confirmations, the whole gallery of shame she thought she'd deleted from her phone. Turns out deleted doesn't mean gone when you have cloud access. I should have changed my passwords, she muttered. I tilted my head. You should have changed your priorities. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. The restaurant noise moved around us like we weren't even there. She reached out, slid the envelope closer, but didn't open it. Her hand was shaking now, just slightly. And I wondered, was it fear? Shame? Or was she just furious that I'd finally beaten her at her own game? She stood up again, pushing her chair back harder than she needed to. Her jaw was tight, her voice flat. You planned this whole thing. Like some sad little ambush. Yeah, I said, not apologizing. Because that's what you do when someone breaks your heart and treats you like wallpaper for a year straight. She narrowed her eyes. I'll have my stuff out by Sunday. I nodded. Take your time. But that envelope? Read it before you talk to your lawyer. Her face cracked then, just slightly. A twitch. She didn't expect the word lawyer. Probably thought I'd just let the divorce happen quietly, like everything else. Like I'd let her take the house, the car, the life she built off my back while she treated me like an afterthought. But not this time. She grabbed the envelope and stormed out, heels snapping against the tile like gunfire. And me? I sat there. I finished my tiramisu in silence. And for the first time in a long, long time, I didn't feel small. I felt like a man she could no longer lie to. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even try. I just sat on the couch, fully dressed, phone in hand, waiting for her to open the envelope. Because I knew once she did, the silence wouldn't last. At 12:42 a.m., my phone vibrated. One word. No punctuation. You're insane. I didn't respond. 3 minutes later. Where did you get these? I still didn't answer. She could guess. That's the thing about liars. When they finally get caught, they don't ask what you know. They ask how. 5 minutes after that came the real bomb. You think this is going to hold up? You think this proves anything? You don't know the full story. Ah, there it was. The classic fallback. The idea that context somehow made infidelity an art form. Like if I just heard her side, I'd see it wasn't really cheating, just complicated human emotion. Just misunderstood boundaries. Just, a dozen nights in hotels and a guy named Tristan calling her baby girl in messages she tried to erase. At 1:07 a.m., she called. I didn't pick up. She called again. I let it ring. By 1:15, my voicemail was full. Most of the messages were just her breathing hard, like she couldn't decide whether to scream or beg. One of them, I swear, was just her whispering my name over and over, like she was summoning a ghost. She never once said she was sorry. The next morning, she showed up. Not just at the apartment. Inside. I'd forgotten she still had the key. Stupid, I know. I was halfway through pouring cereal when I heard the door open and her heels stomping across the hardwood like a SWAT team. She held the envelope in her hand like it was radioactive. I can't believe you actually printed these, she said, waving the papers at me like they were the problem, not the behavior. I can't believe you gave me so much to print, I answered. She opened her mouth, closed it, then threw the envelope onto the kitchen island. It exploded like confetti, images, receipts, dates, locations. And suddenly the kitchen floor was a graveyard of her secrets. This is twisted, Owen. You're obsessed with making me the villain. You are the villain. I snapped, louder than I expected. My hands were shaking. You've been gaslighting me for over a year, Dana. You told me I was crazy while you were sneaking off with men I didn't even know existed. You stood in this kitchen 2 months ago and cried about how lonely you felt. And the whole time, you weren't lonely. You were just greedy. She didn't cry. She never did when she was cornered. She just hardened. Her voice dropped, slow and deliberate. Fine. You want honesty? I got bored. You stopped being someone I was proud to bring around my friends. You became small. I swear to God, I felt my lungs collapse. But I held her stare. I didn't look away. And that, somehow, made her flinch. I stepped forward, picked up one of the pages, a screenshot of her texting a photo of herself in a hotel bathroom mirror. I held it between 2 fingers. This is who you are now, I said quietly. Not a bored wife. Not a misunderstood partner. Just a liar in nice dresses. She stood there, frozen. And for the first time, I realized she didn't know what to do next. Because I hadn't begged her to stay. Because I wasn't crying anymore. Because the version of me she controlled, the quiet, obedient, forgiving husband, was dead. She didn't slam the door when she left, and honestly, that was worse. Because slamming a door at least means you still have fire. But this? She just walked out silently, like she was disappearing into the next phase of her carefully orchestrated betrayal. No apology. No closure. Just that expensive perfume of hers lingering in the air like a ghost I hadn't invited. I stood in the kitchen for a long time, surrounded by the mess she made. Not just the printed pages, but the invisible wreckage. The way my trust had been diced up so slowly, I hadn't even felt the bleeding until it was everywhere. I thought that would be the end. The confrontation. The exposure. The final unraveling. I was wrong. 2 days later, I came home from work to find her key on the kitchen counter. But beside it, and this is what stopped me cold, was a small, gold velvet box. I didn't touch it for hours. I just stared at it from across the room like it might bite me. When I finally opened it, I didn't find a wedding ring. I found another ring, one I'd never seen before. A men's ring, thick, silver, engraved on the inside with a date, 9/14/21. I stared at it for so long I forgot to breathe. That date, it was our anniversary. But I knew immediately, that ring wasn't for me. She never gave me anything that year. No card, no dinner, just a last-minute excuse about work. My hands were shaking when I turned the box over. A folded receipt was tucked underneath the lining. Bought at a custom jeweler. Paid in full by Dana. Engraved by request. And the name on the receipt? Tristan Vale. I sat down so hard I nearly missed the chair. All this time, I thought it was just emotional cheating. Or maybe just the usual affair. Hotels, lies, red wine, and regret. But this was something else. This was planned. She hadn't just betrayed me. She'd tried to replace me. I don't even remember standing up. I don't remember grabbing my phone. But before I knew it, I was outside, calling the number on the receipt. I don't know what I expected. Maybe a secretary, maybe a dead line. But someone answered. And it wasn't a store. It was him. Tristan. Alive. Real. And very, very confused why some guy was calling about a ring from 2 years ago. When I told him who I was, he went quiet. And then he said something I didn't expect. She told me you were dead. I couldn't speak. I just stood there on the sidewalk, clutching my phone like it was the only thing tethering me to reality. She told him I was dead. That's what Tristan had said. Not separated. Not divorced. Not even, it's complicated. No. She used the final word. Dead. I asked him to repeat it, because some stupid part of me still thought I'd misheard. But he said it again, slower this time, with that awkward tone people use when they think they're part of a prank call. She told me her husband died in a car accident. About 2 years ago. 2 years. That would line up perfectly with when she started going to grief counseling. Yeah, now that I think about it, she did start dressing up more around then. Said it helped her feel alive again. I remember being proud of her, comforting her. God, I even gave her space when she said she needed time alone to process. She used my existence as her excuse to vanish into someone else's arms. I asked Tristan if he still talked to her. His pause said everything. Not anymore. She kind of disappeared last fall. Cut things off. No warning. Just stopped returning messages. I swallowed the bile in my throat. Fall. That was when I confronted her the first time. When she swore nothing was happening. She probably cut him off not out of guilt, but because she couldn't keep all her stories straight. I thanked him. Told him the truth. That I was very much alive, and very much done being her doormat. He stayed quiet for a bit, then said, I don't even know what to say, man. That's messed up. Yeah, tell me about it. That night, I didn't sleep again. I sat on the floor, staring at that silver ring she bought for another man. For a man who thought I was buried somewhere. And for the first time, I wasn't just angry. I wasn't just hurt. I was scared. Because it wasn't just cheating anymore. This was delusion. A different level of deception. She erased me from her other life. The next day, I changed the locks. Not just on the front door, on everything. Bank accounts, streaming services, health insurance. I even had the car rekeyed. And then I did one more thing. The final thing. I wrote her a letter. Not a breakup letter. Not a goodbye. A list. Names. Dates. Lies she told. Receipts she left behind. Screenshots. The fake obituary post she'd created on an old Facebook profile under my name. Something I'd never seen until I started digging. And at the bottom of that letter, I wrote one sentence. If I'm already dead to you, then consider this my ghost story, and it's only getting started. I slid the letter into the envelope where her ring had been and left it with the building manager, marked for her. She didn't respond for 2 days. But when she did, she didn't call. She showed up. And this time, she didn't come to apologize. She didn't knock. She pounded. Like the door owed her something. Like the silence inside was the insult now. Not the lies, not the years of manipulation, not the men, not the betrayal, but the fact that I wasn't rushing to let her in. I didn't move right away. I stood in the hallway, just out of her view, listening to her voice rising and cracking between every hit against the door. She kept saying my name, like it still belonged to her, like it still worked like a key. When I finally opened it, She looked like she hadn't slept in days. No makeup, puffy eyes, hair pulled back in one of those rushed buns she used to throw on during fights. She didn't come dressed to seduce this time. She came dressed to beg. "Owen," she breathed, like it was the first word she'd spoken since I cut her off. "Please, we need to talk." I didn't step aside. I didn't invite her in. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, and said nothing. Her eyes flicked to my hands, to the apartment behind me, to the absence of our old photos on the walls. She noticed. Oh, she noticed. "I messed up," she said finally. I was in a dark place. I thought you didn't care. I thought I needed more. But I was wrong." She tried to touch my arm. I pulled back. "I didn't come to fight," she added quickly. I just need you to know that none of them mattered. You did. You do." And I could feel it. Her fear. Not of being alone. She'd been alone between lovers before. No, this was fear of me being okay without her. That terrified her more than any confrontation could. "I used to think you were weak," she whispered, and her voice cracked when she said it. "But you're not. You're strong. Stronger than I ever gave you credit for." For a long moment, I said nothing. I just looked at her. The woman I once adored. The one I built a life with. The one who built escape routes behind my back. And now, she looked like someone I used to know. "Finally," I said, calmly, "you told another man I was dead." She froze. The color drained from her face. "I don't think I'm the one who needs saving," I added. "But I hope you get help. I really do." She opened her mouth again, but the door was already closing. Not slammed, just gently shut. Final. Later that night, I sat on the balcony, coffee in hand, as the sun dipped low behind the buildings. And I felt something strange, something quiet but powerful. Peace. Not because I won, not because she lost, but because I finally saw myself clearly, and he wasn't small. He wasn't forgettable. He wasn't weak. He was free. And that's something she never expected.